So hi everyone, thanks for joining me for these free live calls for Love for Humanity. I'll just explain a little bit more about Love for Humanity. It is a platform where we are all sharing and learning from each other, and every week I will be coming live for those who are wanting to join me live, and also those who want to remain silent, which is those who are still in bed. Thank you for saying that. That's awesome. That's the beauty of tuning in through the internet, is that we can be still in bed in our pajamas. We can be able to tune in and relax and not have to put on our special faces for anything. I always come live with you guys in my pajamas as well. So it is the beauty of the internet, which is fantastic. So today what we're looking at for the Love for Humanity platform is, how do we know what is true? I know a lot of us are going through quite a few just different experiences right now. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that are going around about what's happening right now, but also we kind of knew before now that there are lots of stories going on about what is actually true, what is happening, but the most important part is, how do we know what to do about these things? So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that, and how do we find out, or how do we know what is true? I remember growing up, I used to be quite confused about what I learnt was right or wrong, what I heard at school, what I heard at home. And I remember thinking to myself, whenever you learn something new, that, well, that would be the new truth, even though I would have another truth. And it's almost like, well, which one is true? Is it what they've just told me, or is this what I've learnt in a book? Especially now, and I remember just even recently sharing something on Facebook, and someone actually said, well, that information isn't true, and do your research. And it's like, how easily do we accept what we're told, what we're shown? And this is why I wanted to do this call today, is because we have a way of knowing what is true, and we can use it in our everyday life. I remember even as an adult, I used to think I had poor judgment, because I would have one truth and then someone else would come along and tell me something else, which I thought, well, I can actually see that point of view as well. But how can this be true if this is true? And that was even more confusing, because I'm like, I can see how that can be true, and I can see how that could be true. So I actually thought I had quite poor judgment. But it actually has sent me down this rabbit hole of the investigation of truth. It made me understand that, hey, maybe there isn't just one truth. So I would read and I would see and be told things and say, I can see how these are coming up all the time, and I can see how this might be true and how that might be true, and then this other person might be true, and then this other thing might be true. And especially when we get told from something on the television, or an actual even if you want to call it like someone who's famous, or someone who's got an amazing education or a reputation or whatever, we listen to all these different truths and we listen to all these different stories, but we don't actually know what is true, because how do we know? People can tell us things, we can see things, we can learn things, but how do we know? We just don't know. So I was going crazy around this topic, and it was getting my attention, which is, what I teach you guys is, if you've got these thoughts or these feelings within us that, Linda said that she can relate. She's got these thoughts and feelings, and we've got all these things around us to get our attention. And this really did get get my attention, especially when you would share something that would appear true and someone would go, well, no, someone's just made that up, put someone else's name on it to make it more authentic or more true, and don't believe everything that you read. And I'm like, but I can see how that could be true, and then I can see how that could be true. And it's like, oh, how do I know what's true? So until I started doing this work, I would kind of be a little bit concerned about my own judgment, because I would be like, well, if that's just made up and not true, and I thought it was true, well, what does that mean about me? And we often kind of question ourselves, especially when we've got all these different truths around. And, you know, if we believe all of them, what does it mean about us? And I think a lot of us have these fears about being scammed or lied to or whatever, or the believing. And if we believe something from someone that isn't true, well, does that make us stupid, dumb, whatever? And you watch, whenever you are regulating or looking at what truth you want for you, or if you're presented with a new truth, often if you can really tune into what's going on within you when you're presented with that truth, what you'll actually find is there will be an inner monologue, if you want to call it that, really being, and this is where skepticism comes in. We can be quite skeptical about what we're told if it's a new truth, because our inner monologue will say, well, we haven't heard that before. And then if we believe it and it's not true, then we might look like an idiot, all those sorts of things. So we need to be aware of this inner monologue, these inner thoughts and feelings that are going on when we're presented with a truth, because they will all tell you what you have been programmed to believe. Or if you have defense mechanisms around being told something and told that it is true, and you have a natural skepticism towards it, that's actually not necessarily telling you that it's the truth. It'll be relating back to whatever programming you've actually had around believing something. What will it mean about you if you believe that? And it's really interesting to watch all the thoughts and the feelings that go on when you're presented with a certain truth, to witness it and to say, okay, so what's really going on within there? And you can sit with yourself and literally watch the thoughts and the feelings that go on within you, which are not related to truth at all. And I'm going to tell you that if you have a thought or a feeling about something, it's actually not related to the truth that you're being presented with at all. It's mainly related back to what you have been programmed to believe, and also our inner protection mechanism, what we call the ego, because that's the ego's job, is to protect us. And so our ego could be jumping up, giving us thoughts about the thing that we're presented with, to keep us safe, and that's its job. So first off, I'll just tell you a little bit more about truth. And the first thing that I need to share with you about truth is that everyone has a different truth based around a lot of different things. And this is where it can be confusing, because if you could see that one person's truth, and they will say, well, no, this is what I saw, or this is what I thought I saw, or this is what I've experienced, then that can be very different to someone else's. It doesn't make one more true, they're just different. So everyone will have a different truth around what they believe based around their experiences. It's just the way it is. And this is where, if we can be open to different truths, then we're not just saying that the one we've experienced is true. We're actually saying, I'm open to see what else could be possibly true. The other thing I've found is that you can have multiple truths occurring at the same time based around levels of consciousness. And I'll just give you some examples of that, and how we can have, I've gone dark now, how we can have different truths happening at the same time because of consciousness, and different levels of consciousness. So let me give you an example. So through consciousness, if I can just quickly explain to people what consciousness is, it's actually, and I call it levels, but specifically when you get to a certain level, there are no levels. They're just different experiences. But I'll give you an example of an altered or an alternate level of consciousness of how you see things. And consciousness is basically, you know, how you see things and how you relate to them. So say, for example, someone says to you, and I'll just put you, whoever's there listening, if someone said to you, the ocean is blue, and you could look and you could see that the ocean is blue, you might say, yes, that is true. And that's one level of consciousness, saying, yep, I can see that that is true. And a lot of what we believe is true is the things that we see and the things we experience. But in another level of consciousness, which will also be true, is that we can have someone come to us and say, well, actually the ocean is clear and it just reflects its environment, reflects the sky, reflects what's underneath it, all that sort of thing. And it can appear either blue or brown or different grey. And so the ocean is actually not even a colour at all. It's clear. Now, if you look at both truths, the ocean is blue or the ocean is clear, they are both true. And you can see how we can get confused, because if you firmly set your belief on the fact that the ocean is blue, and then someone came along and said, well, no, that's wrong. The ocean is actually clear and it reflects its surroundings. You would then go, and if you listened to your inner monologue, most of it would go, well, how could you be so stupid to believe that it was blue? When in fact, if you go and experience the ocean and be in it and pick it up and put it in your hands, it is actually clear. And so this is where the skepticism comes in around what we're being told, because our inner voice will say, well, that's stupid to believe that it's blue, when in fact, it's clear, and that's what I'm now seeing. The thing is, it's all about awareness and consciousness. So you can't say to yourself, that is stupid to believe that it's blue, because that's just what you had been told, and that's what you knew at that time. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a level of consciousness which said that this is actually what is true. And if you believed it, then that's okay. But when you know a different level of truth, you can actually get stuck, and this is what stops you from opening up to different truths. You can actually get stuck in the comparing of truths, and also the stories that go on in your head around learning new truths and going into deeper consciousness, by saying, when you have a new awareness of a new truth, by saying the old one is wrong, the old one is not true, the old one is stupid, whatever story your head wants to make up. So we've got to be really careful. And I like to say that both are true. And it's actually okay to be aware of different truths. It's just that when we have an awareness of another truth, we're actually just opening up another level of consciousness, which allows us to see things differently. So you can see that both are true, but just seen from two different levels of consciousness. So we might take it one step further and say, what if the ocean is just atoms and molecules that are vibrating to give the illusion of something that is actually something solid, as an ocean? An ocean is solid. That's another truth that is different to the other truths, but it's still true. Then one step further onto that, which is based on quantum physics, which actually says that the ocean is actually made up of invisible energy combined to create, again, the illusion of atoms and molecules to give the illusion of an ocean. And that's really another level of consciousness that once you get deeper into consciousness, the human brain will not be able to understand exactly what it's talking or what you're talking about. And we're going into deeper consciousness, which will, let me just say, expose, if you want to call it, more truths. And then we always have a choice as to what we want to do with these truths as they come through. But the first thing you need to do is actually realize that everything that you could be shown and told could be true. However, it's just through different experiences, different perceptions of those experiences, through beliefs or experiences. And then there's also the levels of consciousness, which if you open yourself up to more truths, and this is what I urge everyone to do, if you can open yourself up to more truths, you're actually opening up your level of consciousness to be able to see things in a higher awareness, if you want to call it a higher awareness. That's also an illusionary truth, that there is a higher or a lower. And what I constantly being shown, again, with humanity, for example, is we seemingly have this hierarchy of people, where you have the leaders and then you have people underneath those leaders, and then you have other people underneath those people. And it's this illusion of leadership, if you want to call it that. But that's actually not true. And the more that I can share this truth through a different level of consciousness, we aren't, and we don't need to operate as a hierarchy at all, but a tapestry and maybe a web of connections where there is no higher or lower, better or worse or anything, but everyone together, different experiences and different awarenesses and different truths, but being part of the one, which is the humanity, and the consciousness of humanity. Again, that if we go deeper into another truth, we may find that that is also just one truth, and there will be deeper awarenesses around what is true about that and the people on the planet and what we're here to do. So we're getting pretty deep here, but you get the general idea. So how do you know in life what to believe, especially with conspiracy theories and all the fears that are out there and all that sort of thing? So you have an inner knowing, which some people call intuition, but I think intuition has been labeled more as a feeling or a sense. Whereas, and so sometimes, especially if we have been bombarded with feelings that we don't like and we don't know how to control, we kind of shut off our concept of intuition because we think we can't trust it. But intuition actually has no feeling. It's not a feeling at all. It's an inner knowing. And this is what I'm going to share with you, how you actually can tune into your inner knowing, intuition, the true intuition, not the feeling intuition, so that you can find out what is actually true, but also to open yourself up to more truths. And knowing that as you go down the rabbit hole of truths, that will continue, that never ends. And you can be the witness and observe all the truths as they unfold, which will then open you up to different truths and different awarenesses around what's actually happening. So when you're getting an intuitive hit, like a knowing of what is true, there will be no feeling attached to it. If there is a feeling attached to something that's happening, say, for example, a conspiracy theory or something someone tells you and it's different to the truth that you thought was happening. If you have an emotion about that, that's not your inner knowing, that's your inner thinking. And the feelings are all connected to thinking. So to find out the inner tuition or the inner truth or the inner wisdom, inner knowledge of what's going on, you will get what I call an intuitive hit, which actually is an awareness of what is actually true. And it's a neutral feeling. there is no feeling attached to that. So I had someone say to me, well, I had a vision that I was going to have an car accident in the future. And that is, that's freaking me out, or something's going to happen to my children in the future or something. And it's like, I keep getting these thoughts of something that's going to happen. Does that mean that's going to happen? Well, no, it doesn't. That's not an intuitive hit. What that is that's actually your brain or your egoic mind trying to protect you in case it did happen, but doesn't mean it's going to happen. So if you have a feeling about anything, it's usually connected to a thought or a belief or a programming that's within you. And I always say, and it's usually something that's far from the truth. If you have a feeling about something, it's usually far from the truth, and that there is more truth to find out. So if you're presented with a truth and you have a feeling, a fear, anxiety, sadness, whatever, it usually means that truth isn't actually true. And I invite you to look within to find out more about what could possibly be true about this. So the way you do that is, first off, acknowledging that if you have a feeling about something, you need to feel into that feeling, for that feeling to tell you what programming or what belief or whatever is not linked to truth. For you to then go deeper within yourself, to then get closer to that intuitive hit or that inner knowing. Once you've done all of that and just wiped out all the truths that aren't true within you, if that makes sense, you feel into the awareness of the truth. So say, for example, there may be a truth about a conspiracy theory or of something, which is usually what we question a lot, especially now. All you need to do is use your inner knowing or your intuition, and it kind of lives usually either in your heart or around your stomach area. And you use that to feel into. It's funny because we got intuition confused with feeling into yourself, but you feel external to that belief or that thought or that theory or whatever. And when you feel into the knowledge of that thing, your inner tuition or intuition or your inner knowing will tell you, you will get an inner voice. You will get, if it's true, you will be neutral. There will be no feeling about it at all. It'll almost be, this is a fact. And can you see when you're presented with a fact, there is no feelings around a fact. A fact is just a fact. And so the thing is, because we have multiple facts or truths happening at the one time, you can look at, okay, where my consciousness is right now, this is actually what's true, and feel into it. Now, if what you're presented with is not true, you will get a feeling around it, and you can go deeper into what's going on within me that makes me think that that's true. So Belinda said, what about a strong reaction like anger? That happens to me when someone's speaking something that I deeply know isn't true. It's always still saying something about yourself. And I have experienced and do know from the experiences, which could be a truth or not a truth, that when there is any emotion present, including anger, it's actually telling us that there's something going on within us that isn't true. And it's something that's a belief. And so you can actually go into the anger. So say, for example, you go into that anger to then tune into what is the untruth that's going on within you, and to tune into what you need to know about that truth to find out more about that. And if you want to use that, Belinda, at the end as an example, we can do that one. And I might just leave that there for us to investigate, so I can show you how to do this. And then feeling into that. So I'll show you how you feel into it, and we can use you as an example if you want to do that, to then show you how to get to the truth. I think the first thing to really acknowledge, that's okay, we'll do that at the end. The first thing to acknowledge is that everyone has different truths, and when you own your truth, it'll align with more people and experiences that are based around that truth. So say, for example, if we have fears around truth or anxiety around something, we will experience more of that because that's actually what is true for us. Whereas if you tune into the experience of being annoying. If you experience feeling into a truth and then actually having no emotion around it or any connection to it, that then opens you up to another truth. So it doesn't mean that if there's something true in this arena, that's the only truth. You can go deeper into truth, and you can see how you could really be with this all day, going into it. So own all of this and don't question your own truth. When you have a truth, then actually open yourself up to more truth, and that's where you'll get to the real truth. And the thing that comes through is be open to a current truth and then ask what else is possible. And then you'll be shown a new truth, which will then transcend into a current and brand new truth, and then opening you up to more possibilities. And that's how we increase our level of consciousness, if you want to call it a level of consciousness. We increase our awareness. We get to see a lot more of what is true. We get to experience a lot more around truth. And truth is never connected to an emotion. Good morning. Truth is never connected to an emotion. So, if there's an emotion present, that's connected to a programming or a protection mechanism and not necessarily a truth. So I'm going to, my light's gone off again, unmute. Belinda, hello, my love.
Oh, hello.
Let's use you as an example.
Okay.
What's
actually, I have two examples that have happened recently. One was around my brother started talking about my daughter's school. So she's at a more alternative school.
Yep.
And he just started saying things about the school and the philosophy, without really. He said he had been looking into that style of schooling.
Yep.
But without the experience of actually going there, I don't know, what he was saying wasn't true. So I felt myself getting so angry, and instead of just being able to speak clearly back, I just felt like I was getting so defensive and angry.
Right. So this is a great example, and I'm sure that you're not the only one on the planet that this happens to. I think this is what happens to most people when someone else tries to change the truth of what you know. And I first want to show you that that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you do get angry, is because someone's presented a different truth to you, which you know isn't true, but there's something within you that thinks that there's some reason why you need to adopt this truth.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use you as an example. If you can bring up that defensiveness and that anger around what, and it doesn't really matter what they said.
Okay.
Bring that up. Now, what you do is you just feel into that anger and defensiveness and breathe into it and allow it. And the deeper you breathe into it, the more you allow it, the closer you will get to your intuition. So just keep breathing deeper. Now, as you're breathing deeper into the anger and defensiveness, what's happening when you do that?
Feel, just start feeling calmer. It starts dissolving, and it also stops mattering as much as what he's saying. If it's true or if it's not, I know inside me, I suppose, what's true for me.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we're saying. But so that's perfect. And that's all you need to do from now on. If someone presents you with a truth that makes you angry or defensive, it's usually saying that that's just someone else's truth. And maybe somewhere within you, you were thinking that you were actually having to adopt that truth.
Yes, I think, yeah, I suppose there must be some righteousness in me, because I just find myself thinking, but I know the truth and you're not speaking the truth. But sometimes it can be someone's actually lying. But yeah, I get so defensive of my truth.
Yeah, yeah. But so all you need to do is feel into it. So then if you go into the righteousness,
Yeah.
and the defensiveness, do exactly the same, and then I'll show you how to find out what that's about. So as you bring that up and you breathe deep into that, you know what happens. You start to feel calmer and better as it processes. And you can do that for any feeling that you have. So this is where we don't need to struggle with feelings. All we need to do is just actually feel them.
Yeah, just pause.
Just
breathe.
feel them and feel like allow them. So as you feel into that righteousness and defensiveness, what we then say is, and you say it to, you know, when you breathe deep into you kind of drop your awareness into your gut. It's like you're really like in your body.
Yeah.
Which gets you out of your head.
Yes. Yes.
So keep breathing into that, and you breathe into it. Now what you do once you're really fully in your body and you've processed those feelings, you say, what is that righteousness and defensiveness telling me about myself, and what comes through your awareness as you say
that? Yeah, well, I don't like feeling attacked.
Great. So what does feeling attacked feel like?
Well, this is just the response, but I feel attack and then defense.
So maybe it's the perception of attack?
Yes.
So feel into that awareness. Can you see that that's a different truth, even though it's the same thing? So that's where if you say, so then it gives you choice. I can either see it as an attack or I can see it as something else. So feeling again into your intuition, if it's not attack, what else could it be? What else is possible in this situation? So what comes through when you do that?
Well, if it's not actually attack, I suppose it could be even them looking for some, they could even be looking for more clarity around it. In fact, like if I wasn't perceiving it as an attack and going into reaction, perhaps a conversation could ensue where even my own truth could be heard or even integrated by them if it felt right for them.
And I think you've actually brought up another element, which is someone else hearing your truth. So someone else hearing your truth or understanding it, I want you to go into the awareness of someone else needing to hear your truth. And we want to go into a different consciousness around that. Again, it's not bad or wrong or different or anything other than it's just a different truth, right? So I want you to have the awareness of you wanting someone else to hear your truth. And as you feel into, so you know what I mean when you feel into the concept? Great. That's exactly how you find out your own truth and to go into deeper consciousness and deeper possibilities. So when you feel into the truth of you wanting someone and the awareness of you wanting someone else to hear your truth, what comes through when you feel into that?
I can't even feel it or hold space for it. So
Why is that? You tell me why.
Yeah, I just don't feel like I don't feel like that happens for me. I don't feel like I have that around me.
As in what? As someone to hear your truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I've never really felt into it like this, but that does feel deep, like no one's ever heard my truth.
Wow. So that's a great awareness, isn't it? So now I want you to feel into that awareness that no one's ever heard your truth, and tell me what comes through when you feel into that awareness.
That doesn't actually, I don't think that's true either.
So then let's look at what could pop another truth around it. So if no one's ever heard no one's ever heard your truth, and you've got this awareness that may not be true, look deeper into yourself. What is actually true about this?
I feel it. I feel it even bigger than myself. I feel like people can't see the world's truth.
Mm-hmm. And so you can see, because you have this awareness, so people don't see the world's truth. So can you see that a lot of these, and I'll call it a theme, all these themes is about someone else. Yeah. And it's all about people and someone else. And I'm really glad that you brought this up, because when we make things about other people, whether it's a belief or a thought or even, you know, a thing around people aren't seeing things, or why can't people do this, or, you know, how can I change this about someone else? What actually happens is that we go into our egoic mind helplessness and hopelessness. Because there is an awareness that I can't do something about anyone else. So as soon as we make it about someone else, even consciously or subconsciously, we then go into egoic mind, which says that I need to be defensive, I need to prove to someone or to change people or whatever else. But that is true. That is one consciousness. But for another truth to be true, and you can see that there's a feeling around, I have to change other people, I need to, you know, show people what they can't see. You can see that there's anger, there's frustration, there's confusion, all that sort of thing. Yeah. Which is showing you that that's just the mind wanting to do that. It's not actually what else is true. And I want you to feel into this truth. What if the only one you needed to listen to was to you? And what if you're the one who just needs to see the world's truth and just be and knowing that? So when you acknowledge your own truth, knowing, and I want you to have an awareness that when you acknowledge your own, that's when others will as well, because they are just direct linked to you on the external through energy and consciousness. Like everyone is linked in the different levels of consciousness and awareness, and that's just what is, again, a truth. Through an experience, which is saying, again, that could be what we're experiencing now, and then as we evolve and grow, we will have different experiences there. It's like people were saying, oh, you know, in the future we're going to have demanifesting courses, because in the past we used to have to try and manifest something to get it. But as time goes on, we start changing and evolving. And the more we evolve, the more truths come through to deal with the experiences that we're having. So all you need to do is look at, okay, I've got this awareness that when I had this righteousness and defensiveness and all that sort of thing about other people not picking up what is true, well, maybe let me just try, because you can see that you'll experience more of that in your life. To prove to you that you are true. Can you see that? Your external experiences will always try and prove to you that you're right. So if you want a different external experience, you need to have a different truth, which is saying, all I need to do is listen to me and others will listen to me too. And then see what happens in the external experience to see if that is in fact true.
Yeah.
And watch what happens to try and, again, prove to you that you're right. Like, the universe is always trying to prove to you what is right and wrong for you through what is going on within you. So when you change your truths within you, then you have different experiences.
Yeah.
And it's not about changing anyone else at all.
Yes. Yes, that particular experience affected me like the whole next day. So I knew it was something stirred up in me, because I was like, wow, I've been really affected by that, but I couldn't quite work out what it was to look at. So that's
Well, let's look
really
back at the
brought a lot of
situation.
clarity.
Look back at the situation from this consciousness, which is saying that maybe I'm just going to interrupt and give you the answer, is that maybe they were just a representation of something, some part of you that didn't feel heard.
Yes.
Or needing to acknowledge a truth within you that you didn't think was being acknowledged. And that's where you will see more of that externally, that truths that aren't being acknowledged. And you will then feel like projecting your truth, because that's the natural reaction, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and particularly that it was a family member. Yeah, and yeah. So
then look back, and if you can have, because this is what you do when you go into different truths and different consciousness and awareness, is you become the observer of different awarenesses and truths. So then you can say, I'm witnessing, and if you can just witness the experience again from a place of witnessing it to receive more from within yourself around what is actually happening and what is true. If you can look back to what actually happened as an observer of what happened from this consciousness, what does it look like now? I can actually see that was true for him at the time. So, and can you see that he's wanting to project that truth onto you to try and confirm to him that that's what was true? Because people won't project a truth if they're not solid in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, I need you to tell me that what I think is true, so then I can really cement it in myself. But what happened again is the mirror. You had truths within you that were different to his, because different experiences, right? They're just different experiences, which are both true to each person.
Yes. That makes so much sense, because as well, he had been looking at the school for his daughter and then had chosen not to because of these reasons, but then she was very unhappy in her current school. So I guess he was also trying to confirm that he had made the right choice, because possibly, somewhere inside him he wasn't quite sure.
Yes.
So that's very interesting, and obviously I would have compassion for that if I feel it that way instead.
And you can just say, that's just what you've experienced. It doesn't have to be my truth. And this is where sometimes when we have a truth, we don't necessarily accept or own it, because there's so many truths going around, like you've just experienced, that when one person throws up a truth to you that is different to what you believe, you will get this reaction if you don't trust your own truth.
Yeah.
But if you trust your truth, then someone saying this to you would be laughable.
Yeah.
Because someone else telling you something different, and you can then see, you can actually probably be empathetic towards them, or sympathetic, because it's like, I'm so sorry you had that experience.
Yes.
But you don't have to take on someone else's truth as your own. And that's why you would be defensiveness and righteous, because it's your inner brain saying, don't you dare try and make me change my truth. But how can someone change your truth unless you weren't solid in it in the first place?
Yeah.
So it's like this inner defensiveness, which is actually saying, how dare you try and change my truth? But you have control over what you believe, right?
Yes.
This is where the
Yes, that's brilliant.
feelings,
Yeah.
this is where the feelings will actually tell you when you're in your head creating stories, which is saying that you're not, and to be honest, you're not 100% supporting yourself, but now you have an awareness that you weren't 100% supporting yourself. You can just do that, right?
Yes, that's brilliant.
And you can now
it's a good
observe the
way-
world and
it's
then
a good
just
way to tell the difference, because
Yes.
sometimes you're thinking, but that feels like it is the truth.
yeah.
But it
And then
has
if it feels
charge.
like, and if it feels like the truth, and
Yeah.
if you want to go into deeper truths within yourself, you feel more into the one that you currently have to bring up
Yeah.
another one. And then you can actually then bring up another one, and then you can bring up another one. And it's actually really interesting to go down the rabbit hole of truths. And did you say that you had another one that you wanted to share, a quick one?
Oh, yeah. Well, this one's probably pretty relatable at the moment, which is Bill Gates. I think if you throw that name around, there'll be a lot of different truths. So, yeah, essentially it was just seeing someone, I think they were doing this on purpose actually, but saying how altruistic he is, and and I had a very different opinion, and I felt so angry.
Okay, so again, you don't need to go into the details. That's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, it would, it'd be great to go into the story of it all, but we don't really need to.
No,
and
that's
this is-
essentially it.
Yeah, this is exactly what we can do.
Relate to that. Yeah.
So then if you feel into the feeling, what was the feeling that it brought up?
Well, anger. I think I was angry, but I did feel fear that someone would believe that as well.
Okay. Oh, well, I think you can bring both of them up. And again, your head can help you to create that. So try and bring up the thoughts and the feelings around the anger and the fear around that situation. And then just allow that and breathe deep into it. So that
Actually, there was another thought, which was I actually really held this person in high regard.
Yeah.
And I before that had always agreed with everything they'd said. So then it was like, whoa, I don't agree with that, and I don't know if I can like trust you or follow you anymore.
I got goosebumps because I love that you've brought that up. Because we are moving into a time where, and you can start to see this through this conversation, I'm so glad you've brought it up, because you can start to see we're moving from following others into our own truth. So I'm glad that you've brought that up, because we can be presented with different truths, but you can see the old pattern of, well, if you've told me it's true, then whatever you say is actually true, into, well, hang on a sec, I'm actually allowed to have my own truth, because again, everyone's got different experiences and different truths. And you can see that little egoic minds popped up going, what does that mean about me if you're not telling me a truth and I've believed you?
Yeah.
It'll jump up and go, tell you all the stories, again, and it's, talking about being scammed or lied to, or not, and again, like, am I stupid or dumb for believing it? It's, again, those stories.
Yes.
Whereas what you can do now, again, into a different consciousness is, and sometimes I've actually done that when I've had, to be honest, I've got myself to a stage where I don't follow anyone, but I enjoy listening to different consciousness and different awarenesses and feeling into everything to see what it means to me. And that's really all we can do. I did actually have someone say to me yesterday, I don't actually agree with you in this. And I said, awesome, because all you need to do is agree with yourself. Don't trust everything I say as your truth, because that's not actually why we're here. We're not here to take on other people's truths. We're here to create our own. And I recommend you do not let anyone change your truth unless there's more of it that you need to know about. And if there's a feeling about it, then it's actually telling you something about something that you've taken on, which isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have an inner truth which feels calm and good to you, then that's all you need to do.
Mm.
So I like how you've brought this up, because if you think about the way the world runs now, it's all about leadership and being told what to do, right?
Yep.
This is where it changes, is that even the leaders, if you feel into the truth around what they say and what's happening, a lot of the truths aren't there.
Yeah.
And so can you imagine if everyone on the planet just tuned into their own truth, would the concept of leadership actually need to occur?
Mm.
Because everyone's their own leader.
Yeah, well, that's very big on this planet right now, isn't it?
And this is, again, what Love for Humanity is all about, is everyone listening to themselves, but not from the egoic self. It's the truth of who we really are.
Yeah.
So let's go back. But I love how you've presented that, because that's exactly what I've been shown about the future. This is what the future is that everyone tuning into their own truth and kind of just all living, cohabitating around with each other, understanding that we have different truths, and that's okay.
So I don't know if this is totally in line with what we're doing right now, but how would you fit that into, say, this current situation where we're actually all being told what to do?
It's so funny. I don't know if this relates either, but I've got to say it. I've just been shown the concept or the story of Horton Hears a Who, right?
Yeah.
Where there's these people that live in Whoville who just think that they're people that live in Whoville. But in actual fact, they're just a speck on a flower in another world.
Yeah.
What is actually true, really? So when you look at, like, what was your question? I just had to say that around what is true, because I've also been shown there's a show on Netflix, Travelers, which is all about people coming back from the future into current bodies through consciousness.
I've seen that show, so I know what you're speaking of.
Right, okay. So as I was watching that, it's like, if we think, like we say, okay, we want to know the ultimate truth, what's really going on here? And then you watch that show, who's to say that that's not happening?
Mm.
But does that make us dumb or stupid because we don't know?
Mm.
Really? Like, look at it. Do we need to know everything? Or do we just need to focus on what's happening in our lives and going into truth?
Mm.
Because we could not possibly know everything. When I watched that show, and then you think, okay, so you look at all the stories around what's going on in the world, and all the stories around coronavirus and why it's been started, and, you know, what's actually going on the planet, who's running it, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
To be honest, when I feel into the truth of that, that doesn't feel true, because I know that there's a higher power. I don't want to call it higher power, but there is something else going on facilitating all of that.
Yeah.
Like the Horton Hears a Who concept of, you think it looks like this, but don't, like, if you've got a feeling around it, it's not telling you that that's true. And when you feel into what is true, I'm showing a different truth, which is saying that none of them actually have control over anything. And there's a different truth. And again, I don't want to project my own truth on what I've been shown around what's actually going on, but we don't actually have anything to fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you really get down to the ultimate truth of what's really going on, there is nothing to fear. Because then we say, well, we have the deeper fear of death. And again, that is one truth, that we die and this life ends. But what is another truth? That we're infinite beings and we can just go on to another experience.
Yeah.
They are both true. Can you see how they're both true? But it
Yes.
depends on which truth. So I always say, feel into which truth doesn't create an emotion. Now, if I said that your life ends now to your infinite, which one is the neutral truth? Which one? You tell me.
The infinite,
Okay.
infinite one for me.
And I would probably guarantee you that that would then also be the truth for others. But the thing is that those people who have been programmed against that and told that that wasn't true, they will have an emotion around that. Can you see?
Yes.
So this is how we work out what is actually true. And if you have a feeling about a truth that you're being presented with, and there's so many truths out there, and if we have a feeling around it, if we allow the feeling to process and go deeper into ourselves and ask what feels neutral, what feels true, we will receive a different truth. Like we actually die to, we are infinite, feeling into the different truths, you will know which one is true and which one we can make true for you. And the thing is that the more that you know that is true for you, you don't need to project that out to anyone, and you don't need to make anyone see that or for anyone to hear it.
Yeah.
You need to just live that and be that and own it. And the thing is again, we can actually go deeper into that truth even, because that's not the end of just knowing that we're infinite.
Yes.
What else would we like to know about that? Well, it's endless. We could know everything. So maybe we can shift from knowing a truth into, again, what else is possible.
Yes.
How much fun is that?
Yes.
You can see what we worry about on this planet really is not what is actually we should be worrying about.
Yeah. Yes.
Really, at the end of the day, when everyone tunes into their own truth, there is no arguing, there is no fighting, there is no unrest, there's no trying to have more power over someone else. That's all from the perception of truth, which no one's owning their own truth at all.
Yes. Yes.
And it's fun. I love these conversations. It's so cool. And thank you for bringing all that up.
Oh, thank you for working with me around it.
It's really, really fun.
Yeah, it's been very enlightening.
Good. And that's really where we're going. So thank you for doing that. So keep playing with those processes.
Yes, I feel like there's a lot to play with at the moment. A lot of material around.
So you always just go down to thought or feeling, and if it's a feeling, you feel it and go deeper into yourself, and you will always be given a deeper truth. And this might be an invitation also for you and everyone else who tunes into this to actually do that. Yeah. And we'll just find the more truths we have, the more peaceful we are, the more calm, the more happy. Yeah, it just is.
Definitely looking for more peace. So thank you.
That's okay. Keep doing this. And we've got Peggy and anyone else who wants to listen in afterwards. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember that we will be doing these each week. And then if you're wanting me to do continual work with you in my group, we do have the Love for Humanity membership, which is going to be opened up anytime soon. It's look out and I'll send you the information around that. But the free calls are pretty much just sharing information and sharing experiences to see again if you can connect to your own truth. And then the memberships, there's a free membership, there's also an apprentice membership which allows you to work in a group with me around these concepts and really going deeper into that. And then there's also a professional membership which will allow you to do this work with others, which is really fun. So keep tuning in. I'll keep seeing you each week. And then if you want to do deeper work, just message me and I'll see you next week. Bye.